Like, is that a good synopsis of 100
How'd you
Thieves?
lose to Fly and Golden Guardians, dude? Come on, man.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Eye of the Watchers podcast, giving you all the support and insight you need to get hyped about League of Legends esports. We are going to be doing another power ranking. We had some good feedback for the last one. We think we might try to do these every week and just see how our power rankings change, especially if there's good stuff to talk about. So let's just jump right into things. We have Manny and Rhino to my sides if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, I mean, you'll hear their voices. Let's get into it.
Yes.
I'm just going to run through the first three. We have C9 at number 1, Fox at number 2, and Team Liquid at number 3. I think it's pretty collective. That's where most people put all these three teams, give or take a spot. But these are the top three, right, guys?
Yeah.
I think it's really clear. And in all honesty, I think we disagree slightly on first and second, me from you two. But I think it's not a big enough disagreement where I'd say, how dare you put C9 in first? I could definitely see it. I think like the question marks that, I mean, just looking back at our original power ranking, the question marks we saw, they're obviously been answered, right? And I think it's really good. They look like a crazy good team. So
all right.
Excited to see them.
So Manny, you put Fox at number 1. So why don't you tell us why you put Fox over C9 on your ranking?
Dude, I'll die by that Dardock Zach. If they don't ban Zach, Dardock has 100% win rate on Zach. He's crazy good. Huni takes a lot of pressure. People are like, well, we need to neutralize Huni. And it's like, you do that, but then Altic and Adrian, again, they're not like, this is not a team that will necessarily just steamroll you throughout the map. Like C9 has very strong like lanes, but I think like the ways I've seen them play, it's like they've had a couple games that they probably should have lost, but because of how good they played and like the kind of like bend but not break mentality, it showed like that this team, even in huge deficits, I mean, and you could argue that like against the team they're playing with, but like even with huge deficits, this team still has pulled out a good amount of wins. So I think they're definitely number 1 for me. But.
Gotcha. Cool. So Rhino, why is C9 number 1 for you?
I think the team play is just overall better.
Okay.
I don't think that the one game that they had a matchup, I think we'll see it next week, right? Next week is, again, the rematch between, Cloud9 and Echo Fox on Sunday.
Yeah, and then on Saturday it's against TSM. So
ooh, spicy.
Yes. So I think this is sort of like this could change for me, but I think that it's very marginal. I think next week's going to be a good litmus test to see if Cloud9 is as legitimate as everybody thinks they are.
Yeah, and I think the big, Manny was hinting at this, the big question mark, Licorice in the top lane, I mean, he's doing work. He's doing fine. He's hanging with the big boys, right?
Rookie of the split.
He's smacking around the big boys,
by
dude.
far.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, cool. So in the third place, we had Team Liquid. I mean, I think basically what it comes down to is their roster is just beastly and scary, and that's carrying them far, and they're still figuring things out and meshing as a team, but they are by far above everyone else still. I think we can all agree on that one.
There's still a clear disconnect. We have it in 3 groups right now, or at least 4 groups.
Yeah.
So I think that's they're like the cutting point between where you get like sort of the higher, the marginal period before you get from the higher tier teams to like the middle of the pack.
Sure. I think they did slump. They haven't looked as hot as they started off with, and I think that's also partially like they've had, I mean, not only tough competition, but they've also just been playing against I think it's one of those things where it's like teams start finding out how to win, right? And that's punishing bot lane. And it's like, if they can't get a lead in bot lane, well, guess what? Top lane's not going to be able to carry the game, right? We saw Impact doing the same stuff in C9. Impact is a great player, but like he wouldn't necessarily hard carry for you. Yeah. So you setting them behind like from front side of the map makes it hard, and then Poe Belter is just kind of like stuck being like, where do I go? And teams have been kind of like punishing that. So I think it's interesting for sure.
Yeah,
I think that's also why you see like why the also like the origination of the whole like top die meme is because he was supposed to be like a consistent player, not necessarily like solo killing. So that's why something that was unexpected. Like he's just a rock in the top lane, but that puts so much pressure on Pull Belter and Double Lift to carry. And I think specifically this week might have tilted Impact a little bit. I think the mind games of Cloud9 might have sort of messed it up a little bit. He might have ate his words, so I think that might have tilted him this weekend. But I mean, like we put him in third because I mean they clearly lost to the two teams above them in a pretty handily fashion. So I think that solidifies their third place ranking in my mind.
Do you think that the gap between Team Liquid and the top two teams versus Team Liquid and the teams below them are bigger? Which gap is bigger?
Yeah. I like to think that the TSM TL gap is a lot bigger than the TL to Fox, which makes it that much bigger for Fox to TSM from our fourth place.
Gotcha.
Which is, spoiler alert, that's our fourth place.
For sure. I think I completely agree with that. And then we'll go more into detail. But hell, like Team Liquid destroyed TSM in a 26-minute game, right? Like it wasn't even close. And yes, this was first week TSM, but like there's still like a lot of those issues, right? So I think it is a lot bigger, unless we start seeing like the curse flip itself, and Team Liquid haven't been able to leave that fourth place too far. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think that curse is following, but I do think that like with this coming up, it's a good test, right? Because I mean, it's the early game focus from Team Liquid and how they play it. They try to close out early and I think from closing out early, it must like be something they do in scrims too. But they have little to no practice in mid to late game, is what at least what I noticed from Fox and Cloud9.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So going into the middle of the pack, we have TSM and Clutch Gaming tied for fourth place. And this one is a tough one because I think we disagree with the rankings for these guys where they lie in this middle of the pack. What can we say about TSM? Manny, why don't you go first because you like them, and Rhino just apparently hates TSM. So Manny, what's up?
I like it. We obviously discussed this beforehand, and I do want to say I agree with Rhino. I just don't think, personally, I don't see the points being as big of an issue as they end up being, right?
Okay.
And so TSM still needs to show themselves against the top team. I mean, they did have a humongous lead against Echo Fox. People were like, oh my God, they're going to be the first team to beat Echo Fox. What the hell, TSM? Like, what are you doing? Like, Echo Fox is the best team. They threw a 10K gold lead. They did the same with Clutch Gaming, which, again, that's who they're targeting. So I still think that this team is improving. I think that it's not right to say, oh, you just put your faith in just their raw skill and talent. But that's kind of like what I'm going for. I think honestly, like once you fix these small things, like they looked so much better from day 1 to day 2, right? And yes, it's against like the second day this week was against COG, but like it was drastically better. Even when they were like they threw, it was still like not even close, in my opinion. So I think like this team learns a lot, and it's like they are still very driven to like improve, and they're nowhere near their ceiling as of yet.
Gotcha.
And I that's why I put them in fourth. I think they have that potential to being the fourth best regular season team.
Okay, cool. So what about you, Rhino? Why is TSM supposed to be 10th? Just kidding.
I have them at 7th. Okay, let's not skew the numbers here, but I have them at 7th and significantly lower than most other of the middle pack teams because, I mean, if you look at their mid to late game and every game that they get, like, I think it's sort of like a progression, right? Like you see how TSM performed. They lost every early game they played for the first like 3 weeks. And then they went on to win early game now. But now that they have had so much focus on the early game, they have no idea what to do to mid to late game. They're aimlessly wandering around. They can't secure neutral objectives. Apollo. But it's just like every single time that they try and formulate a lead, they don't know what to do with it. They pick bad engages. They don't have good target selection in team fights. They don't. Their warding is super heavy on the bot side, but then they don't play around the bot side of the map. So then, what's the point of warding the bot side of the map? Like it just seems like a waste of resources, and it seems like the team is still not on the same page. Like Sven and Mithy want a lot of protection for the bot side, but then that leaves top lane exposed, and it leaves mid lane exposed. So then, what do? They decide to play and group up top side. So I don't understand what the point of that is. So it's decisions like that where the team still doesn't feel cohesive. Maybe they'll get it by the end of the split, but I'm going to think in like a short-term mentality. Like if you ask me, they don't make playoffs because teams are going to figure out what they're doing. If you can exploit TSM's early game, it's like they're thinking so linearly about the game that it's hard for other teams not to notice what they're doing. That's why everybody can take advantage of it, right? Like you saw Clutch Gaming, they're like, okay, they're playing early game. They want to fight a lot early game. What should we do? Let's just pull back and like just go for 50-50s. Because then that way we'll claw ourselves back into the game, and then we can win late game with team fights because they have no experience with this. What do? They wait, they pull back, they win a late game team fight, they win the game. That's all they have to do. It's the second time that they throw a huge gold lead from early advantage. Was it 10K? Like, that's ridiculous. There's no reason to throw something like that. They don't know how to close out. So
I think this game was 6K, but yeah. That's
still a lot of gold.
Obviously.
6K gold lead.
Yeah.
But I mean, like with games going right now with the average game time, aside from like Team Liquid, like going super long, you have to know how to play those mid to late game team fights, especially with a team. So if you don't know how to do that, then I don't know. In my opinion, it just feels like you're never going to be your top tier team. Like you can look great, win the early game, but if you can't outclass a heavy team fight oriented team like Cloud9 or Echo Fox, you're just never going to win the game.
Sure. Cool. All right. So then Clutch Gaming, who is also tied for 4th. Why? I think they've been looking stronger and stronger every week, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think also it's funny because I've always said that Clutch Gaming and C9 are very similar in a lot of ways. Aside from having like probably the best bot lane in NA right now for C9, but like Clutch Gaming, we had like the question mark of Solo. What the hell is Solo gonna do? Solo's been playing great too. Not at the level of Licorice, right? He's not hard carrying, but like. He's been playing really good too. He's been playing consistently and like takes a lot of pressure, but doesn't throw away a game. So I think like that same question is answered. The big shock for me is like the huge question mark now in the jungle. Like Lyra has not been performing to anywhere near the level he was, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, like we were hyping it up before with like the Lyra Fevivin. It's like Fevivin's still playing well, like hell yeah, but like Lyra isn't. That TSM game, I think, was a 4v5 that Clutch Gaming won. In all honesty, right? Like, it just doesn't feel like they have like a solid jungler. When originally looking at this team on paper, you see Lyra, you think that this is a solid, again, the solid team with the solid jungler, solid mid. But it's just the questions are popping up where like originally they weren't, and that's to me like the main reason Clutch Gaming is weaker than the than TSM, but again, I'm not willing to like necessarily fight for it because I see both sides of the coin, right?
Sure. Rhino, is there anything to add to that one about Clutch Gaming?
It seems like Clutch Gaming has a horseshoe up their ass for 50-50s. So I dare not bet against somebody that has a lucky streak. So I think
that's true. Yeah.
I think like in this case, I think Apollo and Hakuo aren't a excessively like amazing bot lane. I think they're a solid bot lane. I think if you were to like put it, like coagulate or like if you were to splice impact into two people, that'd be Apollo and Hakuo. Like still be able to do something in the middle late game, but even if you take on so much pressure, the only problem is that you lose like gold income on 2 players instead of just 1. But I think Fevivin's a monster. I think Solo's a monster, and I think once Lyra warms up to the team. Because you got to remember, this is a completely different mid-top synergy that he's playing with and he's used to playing with. So I think that, like, from the perspective of, like, holy shit, I have a competent top laner. Holy shit, I have a competent mid laner. What do I do? So I think that's the complete difference. He doesn't feel like he has to hard carry. So he looks a little bit uncomfortable on champions that are, like, super team oriented. At least that's what it looks like to me. Like when you play Sejuani, he was going for some super early aggressive invades against Team Liquid, against Smithy, and then he just got himself killed like 2 or 3 times. I remember watching that game thinking, Lyra feels like he thinks he's playing Lee Sin, but he's playing Sejuani. Like maybe it's just like a playstyle adaptation or
maybe
what.
He's bored of this meta. Maybe this meta just
he's
really
probably
doesn't
bored
fit
of the meta. Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe they need to switch things up and put Apollo in the jungle and Lyra in the bot lane. I don't know. Like,
Apollo, Ezreal jungle yet again.
He doesn't even need smite. Look at that. Freeze up a summoner spell. There you go.
Also,
I would
go ahead.
Honestly, I'm God forbid me saying this, but I would like to see how Moon fits into this team.
Oh.
I would like to see Moon get a chance at this and to see, because I think Moon's play style comparatively with Febivin and Solo, I think that would be a really interesting combo to look at. And like even to just try it for like one of like the even matchup games. I know they can't really throw too many games away because they're really contesting for the playoff spots right now.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to try something in scrims, definitely give Moon a shot here, because I think Moon is a creative jungler, and I think that's what they need. And I think Lear's getting really bored of the stale.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think Moon and Lyra are very similar in some aspects, like, you know, like in terms of like the creativity that they have, like different champions and stuff, but like creativity. I mean, heck, like you put Moon in, you force an Evelyn ban, right? Because Moon's like fucking god on Evelyn. Like it's funny. So I do agree. I think it would be interesting to see. I just also want to mention that we need to check the tapes, because I remember saying that Solo was extremely great improvement from Seraph, and I see Rhino smiling already because he knows. He was like, "Hell no, Solo's fucking trash." I was like, "Oh no, buddy, come on!" It's such a huge improvement. He's like, "Hell
check the
no,
tapes, bring them out, check them." I don't believe you,
dude. I'm for sure. Delete.
delete.
He's like, "Oh no." But I think, I mean, I think it's clear cut on Clutch Gaming. If they're not necessarily fourth, they're no lower than fifth.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty clear at the very least.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Right now, that is clear. Unless something big changes, we'll see if they flop. I mean, they are best of one, so who knows what happens, right? So the next team that we want to talk about, I don't think we need to talk much about, and maybe I could say something because I like 100 Thieves and I watched at least their games. They are 6th on our list. Again, kind of a little bit everywhere between 5th and 7th on our list. From my understanding, 100 Thieves, like they kind of play slow and then they play smart but way too passive, and then nothing happens and they lose. Dude. Like, is that a good synopsis of 100 Thieves?
How'd you lose to Fly and Golden Guardians, dude? Come on, man.
Best of ones. Anything can happen, right? Yep. 100 Thieves, number one still.
I watched that and I was so tilted.
To be fair, I was watching the 100 Thieves versus Golden Guardians. They drafted a composition where you need to help the top side of your map because you're against an Alawi with a tank, which is Ornn, but Ornn has been nerfed. And even regardless, Alawi is a counter to Ornn. I don't think Sejuani, which was Meteos, like showed top pre-6 at any point, which that's what you need to put that Alawi behind. Lorlo had a 40 CS lead on someday. Like, they drafted something and they completely misplayed it. So to me, I put 100 Thieves in 7th because the way that they started hot, but the way that it seems like teams just discovered their play style and just found a way to hard stop it. And they looked awful this weekend. Like, they had no creativity. Sunday looked like Seraph at points, you know. It honestly, it wasn't like Rio was trying, sure, but cool. Like, what else do you have? You know, like Cody's son was lackluster as well. Like, they had an awful week. Yes, you could say like you could slot it as they just had a bad week, but even before this past week, like they weren't looking too hot, right? They went 1-on-1, but it wasn't like convincing. In my eyes, at least. So I think they should be lower, but I mean, you know, I think like we've been saying, best of ones and stuff. We need to see how they react to this 0-2 week.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would agree with that 100%. I think, like you said, I think they figured them out, right? They were just like, oh, okay, like let's just skate through the early and mid game, and let's wait for late game, and then Aftermoon's going to carry us. And they realized, wait a minute, Aftermoon's not the only person that's good at shot calling late game. Everybody figured out that we can play late game now. Okay, so what do? I think we just roll over and die the early game, and that's literally what happened. So it felt like they sacrificed so much early and put so much emphasis on mid to late, and then they dug themselves a deficit that they just could not come back from. Sure. It was really, really unfun to watch because there's a lot of like missed opportunities, I think, from on the case of Meteos and Ryu from that little synergy combo.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So in the 7th place, we have FlyQuest. How has FlyQuest kind of crept up our rankings a little bit?
I think I have the highest, right? Yeah, I have them at 5th.
Yeah, you do have them at 5th.
Yeah.
Which I'd be down to put them in 5th too, but go ahead. Start off your reasoning.
I think that now that we're seeing a completely different team and how much they played against Cloud9 this week, I believe. Yes. Was that this week?
Yeah. Yes.
They played, it was game 1.
Yeah.
They gave Cloud9 a pretty good run for their money, and that was impressive to watch.
Mm-hmm.
That I looked at them and I'm like, okay, that's pretty solid. Like that wasn't that bad. Then came the late game, but like every other game. But like they had, I mean, part of it was on the play, I think, of Cloud9 for the early mid game, but the early mid game I thought was played very well by FlyQuest. Like they looked pretty good. Like I liked the Flame pressure. Flame looked like he was old Flame again.
Mm-hmm.
He made Licorice feel like a little useless in the early game, and actually like still stomped that matchup for what's supposed to be Vlad favored. He didn't favor it, and I think Fly, for at least until Jensen got like 6 kills, was keeping up with Jensen in the mid lane. So I think that could be a team that over time that would progressively get a lot better. I think Fly looks good. I think Wild Turtle is going to be good. Jay, I don't really know how I felt about Jay, that substitution. I felt like there was a little bit of an indication his inexperience, but other than that, I think that the Fly and Wild Turtle Flame, that core 4, that's really strong. That looks really strong to me.
Yeah, before Manny gets his word in, what happened, if you guys aren't aware, Fly is now in FlyQuest, so Keen is back on the academy team, that was the original intent, and then apparently there was an understanding that JJ and Stunt will both have time on the LCS stage, probably with Stunt being on there most of the time. But they're like, hey, JJ, we're going to get you in there, which I think is pretty cool for an org to like just promise one of their academy players. So that's pretty cool. Good job on FlyQuest, and also not like worrying too much about their ranking and worrying more about the kind of the long-term benefit and just their players. But you did all right. Manny, what do you have to say about FlyQuest?
So I was actually going to also say, like with that, they also did that with Onda and Shrimp. Mm-hmm. Which I think Shrimp is good. He just underperformed. It was like a tough week for them. They ended up going 0-2 or whatever, like the week before. I'm okay with you guys, like, you know, like with an organization like flipping around. I think I also agree. I think that's really cool. I mean, JJ, what if he's like untapped potential? You just have like a crazy good, like it could be like a Smoothie. Like in all honesty, like Smoothie just came out of the gates, right? And like Wild Turtle when he
replaced Chaos, like back in season
like
2
it could be something like it could be like something like that. I mean, and it's also great that he played collegiate, which he said that's his intention, was to show that collegiate players could make it to the LCS, and lo and behold, he did that. I think they play better with Stunt, personally. But I mean, it's not like a huge issue. I agree. I love Fly, like, honestly, like I don't want to say he dominated, but like he proves that he's like good. You know, he's like high caliber. I think the Fly, Onda, Flame, those 3 in particular, like the top side of the map, disgusting. Like, holy crap. Like Flame can hold his ground, especially if he shows to be like Flame of old. I think he can really, put a dent in some scoreboards. And then Wild Turtle is just consistent. I've said this since the beginning. I still think it is true now. He's not necessarily going to win you the game.
Mm-hmm.
There will be times he hard carries, but I could see them making playoffs. I could see them fighting, especially with the slumping 100 Thieves. I could see them sneaking in for sure. So I think it's interesting. I hope they don't make too many of the substitutions if they are hunting for a playoff spot and potentially like making it, semis or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm okay with it. I mean, they were, not really fan favorites last year as much. And I think that they're finding their footing and stuff. So I think it's really fun to see them for sure.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I didn't have Fly so high on my list was because I still have faith in our 8th place team, which is CLG. It's a weird one. And I say faith because I put them at 7, so it's not that big of a deal. I still believe in Zeke's. If you look at CLG, their level 1 and early game is like really nice. Like Rainover, for his horrible performances, he's still like having like really great advantages at the very, very beginning of games. And then, I don't know, the CLG of this season is just looking really, really sloppy. I think sloppy is the right word. They just look all over the place.
Dude, they lost Optic, man.
All right,
say,
next.
Yeah, like, dude, come on. You can't be serious. I'm sorry.
To be fair, Optic did play a lot better than they had been showing, and I think it is a team that it won't challenge playoffs. I don't think they even when they lose, they don't seem awful like Optic does.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with like Golden Gardens, they're pretty much the same team at this point. So with Clutch Gaming, CLG, holy crap! I'm just thinking of 3 different teams right now. Of CLG is. To me, that they look like a free opponent if you're anywhere in the playoff race, you win that game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd 100%
aside from Echo Fox, because obviously counter logic, right? But I think it was supposed to be a close game against TSM because they both threw their first game, same score, 3-4. They got destroyed. Like he did some nice plays, but it was for nothing. Like he got solo kills. Oh yeah, you solo killed Haunster. Great for you. Now what, right? Like even they allowed Aurelion Sol to go through against Optic, who's supposed to be a much worse team.
Yeah.
They played perfectly around that. Like it's awful to say this, but like the fact that Darshan and Huhi are their most consistent players just shows you how bad this team is. And like just saying that Darshan is your most consistent player just shows you how bad this team is.
I can already see people like making the argument against that, like saying like, oh, but they've beat FlyQuest, and like FlyQuest is the coveted gods of whatever that you just like mentioned previously. But like I'm gonna address that game specifically. I don't know what the hell FlyQuest was doing in their draft phase, but they literally gave everything over that they gave the store away to CLG. They're like, here, take everything. You want Kog'Maw? Take Kog'Maw. You want J4? Take J4. You want the winning matchup top lane too? Or you want the alternate scaling matchup too? Take it. It's all yours. We're just gonna stick with Sejuani and Ori. Hello? Were you guys watching the same draft? Like, I don't understand what the hell FlyQuest was thinking in the draft. And that was like, everybody, I remember looking at Twitter, like, CLG's back, baby. They beat FlyQuest. They're coming back. They're making the run. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, not even a teensy weensy little bit. This team, dude, I used to have faith, but I don't see how this ever gets any better. And like Stixay, like deciding when he wants to play the game. Like when Optic Gaming wins and they're like, whew, man, like thank God we beat them. Like that's when you know that you're thought of as the worst team in the league. Like when Optic Gaming looks relieved that they beat you, not because they're having such a losing record, but they're like, holy crap, this is the other team that's going to be tied for last. We better win this one so we can prove that we're not hot garbage.
I mean, so look at the 3 wins they have, right? Because they're 3-5 now. Fly, we talked about that. Fly threw away the draft. Golden Guardians actually threw the game at Baron. They misplayed that matchup, but Golden Guardians were looking like they were going to win that game. For the majority. I mean, again, we go back to like teams not really knowing how to play like that mid to late game, and Guardians being one of those teams that they've just looked kind of lost. And then Echo Fox is the only win that I could say, wow, you beat like a really good team. Props to you. I don't understand.
I think
like,
you'd allocate that more to Echo Fox than anything else. You'd be like, Echo Fox,
yeah, exactly.
Guys, like, Hooney, was your keyboard plugged in, my dude? Like, is everything okay? Like, you got solo killed by Darshan. You got solo killed by Darshan.
Real quick, I want to address that clip because they did the mic check and they put that clip again, but they took out the Hooney's my fucking bitch, and that's the funniest clip of Darshan. But I mean, again, like they didn't beat TSM, which you could argue, right? Like, I mean, I know that you have TSM just right above CLG, right? Right now, but like they got destroyed by it. Like, so even if that's true that TSM is a 7th place team, from 7th to like the bottom, that's a huge drop off. That's almost bigger than like 3rd and 4th. I in my opinion, right? Like, it's just so clear that if you lose to CLG and you're not like, if their record showed it, I would put CLG in 10th currently.
I think they stay at 3 wins for the rest of the season. Whew. I think they don't win a single game.
You just want a ton of clips, don't you? That Manny's gonna be like, hey, remember when Rhino said this?
Check the team. No, it's like CLG wins.
Listen,
CLG wins the playoffs. I'm like, wait a second.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I look at the team right now and how they're playing, and you try and tell me that they go into their next couple weeks and that they're going to come up with some big wins, first game, Team Liquid, hell no. Next game, 100 Thieves. If 100 Thieves wakes up and realize that they can win besides mid to late game, that's maybe the only game they take. Week 6, Clutch Gaming, they lose. Week 7, Golden Guardians. That's if Golden Guardians decides that they just don't want to practice for the next 2 weeks against CLG. Like,
I can agree. I
gave them the most respect with 8th, being of like this little like bottom group of like Optic, Golden Guardians, and CLG. I gave them that like little. I gave them the courtesy of 8th because I thought, okay, if anybody can turn it around of those 3 teams, it's going to be CLG.
Yeah.
But
at this point, I'm gonna say it's Optic, to be honest. But you know, that's the point.
All right, so let's go to our 9th team, Optic Gaming. So we've already talked about like Optic and then Golden Guardians 10th. So let's just flush out some of those details officially. So Optic Gaming, what's up with Optic Gaming? I think we had them 10th before, right?
I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, they're moving up. They're one step at a time. Again, honestly, if their record showed it, they would actually be 8th for me. But you know, we'll take it one step at a time. So I just want to say that in all the games, I think aside from because even Team Liquid, who do they have wins against? I just know that they've been playing well. I think is what I want to say. Like, Optic have lost a lot of games, but they aren't necessarily hard losing those games. I still don't like Acadian and Lemon. I think like those are the big like factors. I mean, Zig as well, but like Zig had a reoccurring week. They were like, Zig, wake up. He's like, oh, I'm a pro. Seraph isn't in this league. I can't be last. It's like, there you go, boy. You know, but aside from that, like, I think like they show promise, right? Maybe they won't even like reach close to like playoff contention. You know, like maybe they don't even overtake CLG. But I think that this team actually has shown promise. You know, like.
Go ahead, finish what you're saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was gonna say, like, I just don't see them being the absolute like worst. You know, their players' skills have actually improved, and you know, to say like, I think that Power of Evil has actually matured as a person and a player because he doesn't look as awful as he did with Origin. right?
Yeah.
Which was my huge concern, that he would just look like shit. And he hasn't. He has his off games, but he doesn't have like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
He stopped to Aurelion Sol. He had the answer to Aurelion Sol. Like, not many players can say that. Like, other people still respect it that hard.
Yeah.
Like, this one thing, like, who he knows how to play Aurelion Sol. But, like, part of me was like, yeah, dude, okay, play it. I'll go 5-0-4 on Rise. That's fine, too. I like that. I'll rotate you. That's cool. Or I'll just push you into turret. You'll have no idea what to do. Like, he had an answer to that. That's really, I was impressed by that. But I think that just from knowing the organization for Optic, if you look at all the repeated failures of Optic and their ability to grow their players and organization outside of League of Legends, because this is obviously their first experience with League of Legends, but like with their growth on Halo and their growth on Call of Duty, I know it's FPS and I know it's a completely different mentality for the game, but that organization knows how to turn players into champions, and if they don't, they'll get the right people to teach you how to be a champion.
Gotcha.
So I think that I would give this team time. I have a soft spot for Optic because I love Hex, man. I love me some Hex, and I love everything that Optic's been about, but I think this is like the biggest PR move for League of Legends, adapting probably the biggest brand in esports into the scene, and now they have to sink or swim. And I mean, in the past, Optic has swam, but I don't know if this one's going to sink or not. For me, the biggest question mark's Zig, not Acadian, but I think Zig and Lemonation, man. Zig, I remember.
All right, so we have the common man. Lemonation needs to get the fuck out.
Lemonation. I saw. Was it the post this week that was like, "Oh, Lemonation turned down a life and a wife for League of Legends"?
Yeah,
was that the Travis Gafford interview?
Yep.
I was like, "What do you mean he turned down a life and a wife? He doesn't realize that he's slowly washing up? Like, I don't understand." Oh man, dude, I was so sad. I felt so bad, dude. I'm like, he actually thinks he's going to become one of the best again. He can't give up the glory days of C9. Like, there's a time you realize that you're not going to get to that what's the word I'm looking for? The caliber of player, like Smoothie, Biofrost, or like Mythy. Like, you can't compete with those people. You're off the table at this point.
Ole, by the way.
Ole too. My bad. Sorry about that. Sorry.
You gotta at least mention the top 3 spots in the top 3.
Sorry. I do have a lot of respect for Biofrost, but
I don't know. I do too. I mean, I don't think like Biofrost hasn't had like amazing games, but like he was like Biofrost did a lot for Double Lift, right? Like I think like everyone has to do a lot for Double Lift. Going just quickly back to the COG thing, right? Biofrost has not been doing bad, but it's like, what can you do when your Caitlyn is like, I have a zillion ult, I'm gonna frontline. It's like, god damn it. Say just play fucking Urgot, go full bruiser. I don't care, dude.
Here's the thing, like both the other players that they used to play with. So like when you think iconic, you think like the bot lane's just like the bot lane switched. So now it's Biofrost, who's supposed to be the quiet one in that duo, and Stixay, who's supposed to be the quiet one in that duo. So what do you do when neither of them have any like, somebody has to have like priority in it, right? So somebody has to have a voice and to tell you what to do in the lane. Like there has to be some sort of communication. And since we know that Biofrost left because of some communication issues, what happens? I really want to hear what the comms sound like for that, because I feel like it's just like the rest of the team's talking and then it's just bot lane's like silent.
I think my favorite comm will forever be, who needs my fucking star shot?
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. The casters' reaction is also hilarious. They're like, whoa.
Do we want to even talk about Golden Guardians?
Yes, I actually do.
All right. So last place, Golden Guardians. What do you have to say, Manny?
Dude, Deft and Mata, I'm finally glad that they showed up, dude, against the fucking best.
Deft and Mata.
Yeah, Deft and Mata. That's who they think they bought. You know, they misplaced a couple letters, but that's okay.
Yeah, dude. They're like, dude, this guy's so cheap. Why nobody wants him, dude?
No one wants Deft.
Oh, dude,
is he really that washed up?
Somebody took your IGM while you were on the free market. It's okay. Come over here. We'll just add an LY. Dude.
Oh man, it's. I thought that was one of the funniest memes. I mean. So funny enough, like I always saw this team, and the way that this team was going to win was having Lorlo on a carry or a bruiser. Deft and Matt literally just Matt had to play a playmaking support, and Deft had to have like a nice, safe, or like, like decent ADC that if he got caught out or something, he wouldn't like suffer too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then mid lane, you just have a control mage, because that's what literally High is amazing at control mages, right? Orianna, like stuff like that. Orianna's not in meta, but like he plays it decently, right?
Yeah.
So I always saw like all of this like going on, and in contracts, you just put them on a hard carry. How they beat, like how they win their game? Just by doing that, right? Like they beat 100 Thieves, and yes, 100 Thieves against slumping and everything, but contracts played beautifully.
Oh yeah,
that Camille was nasty. So I found it hilarious, because I had always said like, oh yeah, this is like, this is how this team should function. I'm so happy that they got this win against a good team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter if you're slumping, if you beat like, if you were to beat Team Liquid, you go, wow, we beat Team Liquid, right? They're still 10th, but I think that this team has the room to grow so much, and they showed that just with this game, right? They showed that they can actually take off wins if the opponent sleeps on them, or if the opponent doesn't know how to play against the composition. Like again, if you have a Sejuani against losing top, like you camp the top lane, because everywhere else in the map is going to be fine. You just camp top, make sure that Orin doesn't go behind. I legitimately don't think Meteos visited top once, and Lorlo was like, oh yeah, I'll have a 50 CS differential against arguably one of the better tops in the league. Like, I think like this team shows that you can't necessarily sleep on them, which I'm really happy for, right? And again, I think they still should have beaten COG. They threw, I mean, it happens, right? It's understandable. And like people were saying, he losing to Golden Guardians. I think that's unfair to the organization and the team. Like they are the worst team, but they are professionals. They are pro players. Like they are not bad. They're not awful, right? Like again, you can put Matt into Optic. That's an improvement, right? You could put Lorlo into Optic. That's an improvement. So like they have good players. In all honesty, they have really good players. I think it's just hard to see this when all these other teams imported at least one person, right? And like one really good person.
Yeah.
So I still see, I'm hopeful for them, like I'll cheer them on, like they probably won't win that many games. They'll probably still finish 9th or 10th. That going with like if COG really do shit the bed, I think they'll finish 9th above COG. But I think like they're not god awful as people show them to be. And the fact that they also had to deal with like their coach leaving because of other reasons, like Tyler, who's their new head coach, like he was the assistant coach, but he knows his stuff, right? Like he was hired to begin with, and he's like actually like has a good understanding. And I think that the team will probably be able to scrape by some more wins in the future.
Cool. All right.
I think it's just an unfortunate situation. I agree with you.
You agree? All right, cool. So that pretty much rounds out our power rankings for this week. Hopefully we'll be able to do one next week. We're planning on, I think we're planning on doing these weekly, especially if you like them, let us know so that we can be more encouraged to do them. So that is it for these power rankings. Let us know what you guys think. If you disagree, if you think TSM is actually 7th or if you think they're 4th, we will only see in the future. So thanks for listening to another episode of the Eye of the Watchers podcast, where we give you all the support and insight you need to get hyped about League of Legends esports. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.